As I was telling Miss Z, then I went into the PT thing for week 8. It's like week 8 recovery at the very least. I believe that's actually correct. Might be week 7 of PT, week 8 of recovery. Um, I went in and, they always say first thing like, "How's your arm feeling?" And like, honestly, like the injury, the reattached thing, that whole ligament always feels great. I think it's always like babied. They don't like it never gets any kind of like pressure or anything put on it. The closest thing is like a 10 pound like curl, like dumbbell curl. Um, but I was like, like I've told you that like my this part of my forearm hurts like it's like the injuries here, but this is like the forearm muscle, and the long head of my bicep hurts from time to time. Sometimes trying to like lift it after going for a walk like hurts, and I'm like, what? Like when I go for a walk and my bicep hurts. Um, and then recently, like this part of my arm hurts. And like the injury's like here, so it's over here, and this is the other one, and this one hurts. And I was like, and sometimes when I lift my arm up, I get a click in the like shoulder, and all of these are like things I've documented with them whenever I experience them, and I go in, I go, well, everything feels fine, but I have this hurt, and they're like, I guess their big thing is like, well, does it hurt like all the time? And they're like, well, no, it'll like ache at I don't know, at random, and they're like, well, it's not random. And I'm like, okay, fair enough, but I don't know what I'm doing, like cutting a potato, and then a little while later it hurts. Like I don't. It's not like something specific makes it like go off. Sometimes I'm just sitting around like using my mouse or using the like controller, and it hurts. And I've been, some of them I've been telling them over and over again, particularly the shoulder click and the forearm. And a couple of little things there like always hurt. And then now I'm worried that we're so far into the program that it sort of feels like I'm worried. I don't know that it's true, but I'm worried that they're like, well, it's almost over, so like, who cares? Your exact injury is being rehabbed, and I'm like, yeah, but none of this shit hurt before I had the surgery. The only like, I honestly had these like nagging aches and pains didn't exist before the surgery, but while it was ruptured. So I'm like, there's something about the post rupture recovery that has caused these like certain nagging aches and pains. And I have been telling them that these things hurt, and then I've been getting the like, if it doesn't hurt right this second, it doesn't hurt that like your arm's gonna fall off, then it's not important, basically. They're like, it's important to me, and they're nagging and they don't go away. At some point, like the shoulder clicking one, they were like, well, that might just be like how your shoulder is now. And I was like, okay, but it wasn't like that before the surgery. Like, I don't I don't know that it was, if this is true, I don't know that it was impressed upon me that the surgery would have side effects where like it fix the problem but causes a bunch of like minor other issues. I probably still would have done it. It would just help me to like tolerate it more. Like when it happened, I'd be like informed that it was going to happen or was a possibility. I don't like that I've been like reporting these issues and it just keeps getting blown off, and now it's starting to make me suspect that it's like getting blown off in a way that's like, well, and now your PT's done, so goodbye, boom, out the door. So we're going back and forth with my physical therapist about it, and she's like, well, I could like do a diagnosis on your shoulder and we could figure out what's going on. And we've talked about doing that before, particularly with the clicking shoulder. And she's like, we could rehab your shoulder and get it like fixed. And I was like, and you're gonna have to like examine that and charge me for the examination and then charge me for PT. And she's like, well, you could get the doctor's referral or because you're in California, you're allowed to do a direct referral because we have a relationship already established. And there was some loophole where I didn't necessarily have to ask the doctor to ask them to do it. There's some loophole there, and I'm like, maybe. I mean, I don't. I'm a little bit put out that it's somehow a separate issue from ruptured tendon, doesn't happen, surgery, PT, now it happens. I'm like, it's part of the same kit and caboodle, if you want to put it that way. To me, I don't like that. I've had it put to me that perhaps it's a business, and so at some point in the PT, they're like, well, we need to like get you on the line for another thing and make more money. And they're like, well, yeah, I mean, correct. You know, it is a business. Maybe that's what's happening. Just more money. Technically, this would be the year to do it because if we hit our uh, out of pocket, then it's all covered. It like just keeps being covered, you know. And we were just kind of screwed by the surgery being on the 28th, so the doctor in the hospital, everything went in, and then the first of the year rolled around and everything reset on us. I'm like, motherfucker. Um, yeah, there's too much, like, you can't really like read other people's minds, you know. So like, I want it to be. I would almost rather it just be like they're kind of inattentive and bad at their job than that they're greedy. I don't know what to tell you. Um, I the like, oh yeah, we found the bag, so we got to look it up. But we're coming up on the end of the doctor scheduled PT. I'm not sure how many days total it was going to be, but it was through February. It might have been a couple of weeks in March, but it was definitely like to the end of February, and we're like the 22nd. Yeah. Um, and it's I don't I'm starting to get suspicious that it's like we're running out the clock, you know. And we haven't really like I don't think we've really recovered from it. We're at 6 weeks. I think 8 weeks is supposed to be. Most of the literature I had said 8 weeks should be like 85% recovered, for whatever that means. If that just means 85% weight or something. But I had an interesting exchange with the therapist where I said, well, when I went to the doctor about 2 weeks ago uh, for my second follow up, we went in for a follow up like 1 week after, which I think was a little early. I think he normally does a 2 week. He kept treating everything like it was 2 weeks, and I was like, "You just did it, man." And he's like, "Well, it looks like 2 weeks," and I'm like, "Well, it hasn't been, but it maybe I'm recovering quickly." And he's like, "You are," and all that. Um, so many emails. Um, when I went in for that week 6 or so, he was like, you need to go 11 to 12 weeks and then you can go nuts. I think it was 12 weeks because it was basically double. I was like, I'm only like halfway. Well, are we going to hit like 8 weeks of PT before we actually, and then that's like it before it's go nuts times? And I was like, he told me it was a 12-week thing, and she's like, well, we're not scheduled for that long. That's not what he wrote in his the shared online database that they like on my chart essentially is like he's like she's like, that's not in there, it just says that you're doing great and no restrictions. And I'm like, well, he told me wait until week 12 and go nuts, and she's like, I'm like, yeah, this is where you're gonna get fucked. People tell you shit in person and then they write on the official documents like whatever the fuck they want, you know. And I'm saying that to her in a more polite phraseology, but I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna get screwed here. Like, you can just see the writing on the wall. Like, everyone's like, well, I wrote what I wrote on a page, and that's the thing that matters, not what we told you. So, not super happy about that. Got the bill for the brace today, which was another one of those things where people's like communication, like the doctor was like he brought out the brace, and I'm like, oh, like more expensive stuff, and he's like, do you want to come back next week and cut this off? And I'm like, no, that costs money. Like, all of my concerns were, unfortunately, monetary concerns when I'm talking to him, and he was like, no, everything's covered from now on for the next 90 days. And I was like, great, then everything's fine. Then, like, I can just forget. No, not the brace. The brace is, it's not from the doctor's office. It's from Bragg Incorporated. So there's another $150 out of a $750 brace that you have to pay for. That brace fucking broke towards the end. Remember, the little knob fell off and it wouldn't stay. It wouldn't stay extended. $750 and it doesn't even make it like a month. You know. And you have to pay for it when they're like, no, everything's covered. It's sloppy language. He can mean what he meant, but he tells me everything's covered. I don't fucking like it. And still waiting for the goddamn hospital, who waited to the 19th of January from the 28th of December until the 19th before they put in their paperwork to get their money after taking my $2,000, which they would not let me in the fucking hospital without. Then they just dick around. Because that doesn't go in, my out-of-pocket isn't met, and I'm paying more money. And I talked to them today. I was like, what do you think I should do? Should I just keep paying people money and I'm going to get it back? When am I going to get it back? Who's going to decide who gets it back? You know, like, and she's like, well, yeah, you're definitely going to get a refund, but I wouldn't pay them. And I'm like, oh, really? That means you totally, like, admit that this fucking position is untenable, you know? But, yeah. That's good. We did our workout. Now you're all caught up. I'll see you tomorrow.